Hi everyone and welcome back to Talkin to Teachers. My name is Chris Height and today we're returning to the World Language Department here at the Academy for another awesome episode. Today I'm joined by Dr. Melissa Widdis, aka Profe. Profe, hola. Don't worry, I'm not going to say como estás. We're not going to do the whole thing in Spanish. But how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. You know, I enjoyed the class today. It was a good day at school. Hopefully you had a good day at work. I mean, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a good day.
Well, we'll start with the first question I ask every teacher. I've asked every teacher on this show so far. What's your CBA origin story? How'd you end up teaching here?
So this is my 11th year. I can't believe it's already been 11 years. When I first started working here, I had been working at Rutgers, and I had been teaching some undergraduate classes. I'm working on my PhD, and so I came to kind of the end of that and was working on my dissertation, and I had been adjuncting at a bunch of different places and driving basically all over the state, and I needed a more consistent full-time job, and so I was looking at openings in the area. My brother had gone to CBA, and it always came highly spoken of and highly recommended, and so I applied, and Mr. Santinello hired me, and here we are. So.
Cool, absolutely cool origin story. It seems like every teacher has a connection one way or another to CBA, whether they went here or not. I think that's absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
So my next question for you was, we always hear about in class about your studying abroad, your living abroad. First off, can you tell us a little bit about that and how has it helped you in the educational career?
So I have always loved travel. I started going to the Dominican Republic on community service trips when I was in high school, which was kind of how I fell in love with Spanish. When I was an undergrad, I spent a semester studying in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and so I really had a great experience there. After I graduated college, I did a year master's program in Madrid with Middlebury College in Madrid, and then I spent 2 years living in the Dominican Republic working and volunteering at a school and orphanage. So I really enjoy learning about other cultures, music, food, history, social norms, and things like that. And I find that to be the most fascinating part of learning another language, because then you get to learn about that authentically. And so I like to include information about that when I teach class, because I think that students can relate to it and maybe be inspired by it, maybe find something cool in photos or some sort of like custom. I remember being a high school student myself and learning about the tomatina in Spain, which was a big tomato fight that's held every year in the north of Spain. And so I thought that was really interesting. And I think that sometimes those become fun stories that like students can relate to and be inspired by. So.
No, yeah, I love your stories. I love hearing all your stories of traveling abroad, and it really just keep my interest. You know, I'm one of those students. I think everybody does that gets bored sometimes in class, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think your stories absolutely, keep our interest, and I find them really interesting, especially in the Spanish class setting.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Of course. So now sticking with CBA and your CBA time here. Have you enjoyed your time running the yearbook club with Mrs. Meehan, and how has it changed since you and Mrs. Meehan took over?
I love doing yearbook. It's one of my favorite things at school. I love working with Mrs. Meehan. She's the best, and we have a great time, and we have a good working relationship on the yearbook together. But what I really love about doing the yearbook is getting to work collaboratively with students on a project. I find a lot of times in the classroom, the teacher is like kind of the authority figure, and we have to give you content, and then we have to assess you on that content. And I feel that that creates like a certain dynamic between teacher and student, whereas on the yearbook, I feel like we're almost like coworkers working together, and we can kind of be peers. And so I like getting that varied relationship with students. The yearbook is always very stressful. It's stressful to get a quality product done in the timeline that we have to get done, but students always pull through, and I've had Mrs. Meehan also, we've had some incredible students work on the yearbook. I think one of the things that has grown as we've worked on it is our staff. We started out with a pretty small staff, and I think we're up to like probably over 40 students working on the yearbook now, and it really has become student driven. The students provide most of the content, do most of the writing. We do a lot of the like guidance and direction, but I think the students really do work very hard to produce a yearbook that they can be proud of. So I really do enjoy doing that.
Absolutely. I love the yearbook. I always love going through it. It's absolutely awesome. And a fun fact, a little mini story here. And I told Mrs. Meehan the same story actually when she was on. I met you and Mrs. Meehan before I was at CBA in like 7th grade. Well, before COVID.
You came to an open house,
I did come to
you?
an open house.
Yeah.
I did. And my mom was like, oh, we should go up to the yearbook. And I'm all shy. And we did go up. And I actually did meet you and Mrs. Meehan before all this started.
I do recall that now that you mentioned it.
Yeah, because I was Jonathan's brother.
Yeah,
So
yes.
But that was awesome. I figured that was a cool story. But last couple questions. What has been your favorite CBA memory or memories, since there's probably a bunch of them? I mean, what have been your favorite CBA memories?
It's, I was thinking a lot about this, and it's really hard to pick one thing or one type of thing. I have a lot of great moments at CBA. I say to students all the time that I'm so lucky that I get to do this for my job every day, that I get to hang out with you guys and be part of your lives, and hopefully you learn some Spanish, and hopefully you learn something about the world. But I think my favorite moments over my 11 years here have been times where I have gotten to know you guys as people, and gotten to know things about your lives, what you're interested in, what you're motivated by, and hopefully be part of that, story that you have going forward. I've gotten to see a lot of students grow up, teach freshmen through seniors, and then come back and have you guys visit once you are off in the world doing your own thing. Mr. Frake and I, when we were on our honeymoon in Spain, we actually ended up meeting up with 3 different former students that were in Spain at the time. So just kind of being part of the bigger picture of students' lives, and you guys being part of our lives too, has been really special to me. And I think more academically speaking, my favorite things over the last 11 years have been seeing students perform above what they perceive their capabilities to be. I think many times I get students that come into class thinking, I'm not that good at Spanish, or like, I don't really get this that much, or I'm not really into this. And then surprising themselves by how much Spanish they actually do know, and coming back and telling me stories of, hey, I used Spanish on this trip that I went on, and I was able to say this, or I used Spanish at work, or I used Spanish I was volunteering, and there was this family, and they didn't speak much English, and I was able to communicate with them. And it's really proud for me to see students so proud of themselves. And then students who surprise themselves by earning the seal of biliteracy on the stamp exam, like students who thought they were not capable of doing that. And that's been really fun to see.
Absolutely. And, we appreciate you as teachers who go out of their way, to be kind of, not our friends, but kind of be so friendly to us, that we have like that dynamic as student to teacher. And that's like one of the coolest things about CBA, in my opinion.
That's one of my favorite things about CBA, is that it's not just, I'm your teacher, you have to learn this, that it's, we get to know each other as people, and I think that fosters even a deeper respect between teachers and students.
Absolutely. And speaking of seeing teachers outside of school, the only teacher I think I've ever seen outside of school, surprisingly, is Mr. Frake. I saw Mr. Frake once outside of school. I almost saw Doc Gus once, but that was a whole other story. That's fun. Another fun fact. The only other teacher I've seen outside of school. But last question for you, Prof.
Yes.
What do you hope for your future here at CBA in terms of the yearbook club and teaching? So both your profession and kind of like the extracurricular part of your profession.
So one of the things that I have always wanted to do is, I mentioned that I had been on community service trips to the Dominican Republic in high school, and that really fostered my love of Spanish. And I think that learning a language in an immersion setting is so powerful. And I would love at some point to have some sort of like a service immersion learning program in which we take a group of students and have sort of a curriculum to go do community service somewhere in a Spanish-speaking community and learn Spanish through service. I think that that would be such a cool thing to be able to do. So I hope at some point we can do something like that. And as far as the yearbook, I hope we can just keep making it better and keep making it more professional looking, and just keep producing like a quality time capsule of students' years at CBA, so that going forward, students can look back at their yearbook and be proud of the place that they were in that time when they were at school.
Absolutely. Well, Prof, thank you for joining me here on Talking to Teachers. I really appreciate it. This was a fun episode hearing your story. I didn't know a lot about you personally, so it was cool hearing everything about you. But that'll wrap it up here at Talking to Teachers. Gracias, Prof. Thank you.
Gracias,
thank you for watching. For Prof, I'm Chris Height. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.